Hey everyone, Steven here, and welcome to my little library of horrors. So today's book review is going to revolve around a certain word. A word that I think is a lot heavier than people kind of think about when they first hear it. And that word is going to be revenge. Back when I was in about second or third grade, I can't remember exactly. I remember I was outside at recess one time, and I don't remember what I was doing, but I remember this older kid had, he was running and he had pushed me aside and had called me a name. And, in the moment I had said, I hope you die. And obviously it's a terrible thing to say and maybe kind of shocking for, a kid that age to say. But again, I was a kid and a freshly traumatized one at that. So that was just kind of what it was, And a few days later, he actually died. I don't remember how, but I just remember on the TV one morning, my mom was watching the news, and that story had come up, and they showed the kid's picture, and, that really scared me, honestly. I know now that it's, kind of ridiculous to think that, he died because I had said that, but at the time, like I said, it terrified me. And I think that was the first time I really understood kind of the weight revenge carries. So the book today that kind of focuses on that is called The Playroom by Gloria Murphy. Very awesome cover, and it's embossed here. The doll is embossed, and the font and everything. So very nice color scheme as well. But anyway, The Playroom is about this girl named Victoria Louise, who, as a kid in high school, was bullied by the popular kids, and it's your typical revenge story. The picked on kid in high school comes back for revenge against the people that did it. So it's very cliche, but I honestly loved it. It was everything I was looking for this year so far and what I wanted to read. The pacing was great. The characters, at the time it was written, was original and but by today's standards is very, very cookie cutter, They're, the popular girl and the jock and blah, 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 blah. But what really kind of brings the book forward is our antagonist, Victoria Louise. She's an incredibly complicated character in the way that she's presented in a way that we feel sympathy for her, but on the opposite side of that coin, we can resent her at the same time. It's as someone who was bullied a lot in school, I can understand where she comes from with that feeling of helplessness and resentment towards people. But again, I couldn't possibly do the things that she did in this book. But she walks this line of delusion and cognizant. So, that's kind of what makes her so terrifying, but so mesmerizing at the same time, is she's incredibly calculating, but is very clearly ill, needs help terribly. And, as we kind of progress through the story, we start to see that it's much, much deeper than the typical, I was picked on in school and now I'm getting my revenge. There is very, very heavy trauma that she suffered as a child, and pretty much a lot through her life. But yeah, so Victoria Louise is a wonderful, wonderful antagonist. as I said, it's you can feel sympathy for her on one page, but then her personality twist kicks in, and you can completely like be disgusted by her in the very next paragraph. And I think that's fantastic. That's a wonderful character to me. As I said, the pacing's great as well. Like it does a great job of letting the story unfold by having scenes of character development and also scenes of horror and it really takes the time. Like, there's a lot of people in this group. There's about 10 people altogether. And while only being about 250 pages, the author still takes the time to show us how each person is entrapped by Victoria and is led to be in the situation that they're in. To kind of sort of dive more into the story, Victoria comes back to the town she grew up in under a new name, and moves back into her old house and hires one of the people in the group to remodel it for her. The first thing she wants is the Playroom, where it's supposed to be kind of like this adult bar, for parties and things like that. And so while we're getting sort of, the build up to the Playroom being built, and while it's being built, we also get scenes of our main character, Rusty, and our supporting main character, Ray, putting together clues as to who could be, behind the disappearance of their friends. Because, it starts off with one person going missing, and then, it's not like they have a connection. It's Rusty's best friend, but also Ray's cousin. So then, as I said, we start to see how Victoria lures every character into where they're going. And I really like that. I think that's a really neat thing to do without bogging the story down with a bunch of unnecessary detail. So like I said, the pacing's great. We get, some mystery with, the investigations and clues putting together. We get scenes of horror with Victoria, ghost calling Rusty's house and following Ray around, to her job and things like that. And then, we also get our scenes of, there's even like a really good romance between Rusty and Ray. It's not forced. It's very natural. Their chemistry is great. They're both wonderful characters. So, I think it's a nice little sprinkle in there as well. It keeps things interesting. It helps you invest more in both of those characters. And like I said, it doesn't feel cheesy or forced, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. So yeah, the pacing's great. And some nitpicks I would have, I guess my biggest nitpick would have to be the kind of this having to really suspend my disbelief of the very gross negligence of the police department, to be completely honest. Like, they don't start really taking it serious until the final person in the group, is reported missing. And that's 10 people in a small town within like 2 weeks, I think. And, you could have the most incompetent cop in the world. He's going to start trying to, probably by the third or fourth person, you're going to start to think, okay, something's definitely going on here. I should probably think of this, But 10? That's just, that's craziness. What else? I guess I wish the payoff at the end was a little better. Like the ultimate climax. Like it's a pretty gruesome scene, but for how much buildup there was towards this party, it felt like there could have been more. Obviously I won't spoil what happens. It's very like emotionally scarring, as far as what happens. Like it definitely delves deep into every character in the room, and it's very, I don't want to say shocking, because again, it comes off as cliche, but again, I loved it. I don't think cliche has to mean bad if you go in with the right intentions, and that's what I did. I went in with the intentions of it being cliche. It was, but it was still very compelling. Like, I raced through this book. It was very, the pace, like, again, going back to the pacing, it was so good that it was a book I couldn't help but go back to when I had some free time. You know, it was one I really didn't want to put down. Excuse me. The chapters are broken up very nicely. And again, we get different scenes in chapters, so it's not all one big idea, one big idea, one big idea. We get different ideas throughout the chapter, and it really helps move the story along. Yeah, so I mean, that's really all I have as far as nitpicking. There's like a couple, punctuation and grammatical errors here and there, but not enough to really bother me during the story. It's just kind of something I can't help but notice. But yeah, I mean, that's really all I can say about it. I really enjoyed it. The pacing was great. I love the characters. And overall, you know what? I totally forgot to mention one character. I have to go back and mention this character. Her name is Agnes. And, she's another really great character. She's kind of like this, she's this woman that's been living with the family their entire life. She's kind of been Victoria's caretaker. And, what's awesome is she comes off as like this frail old woman that is almost going to be pushed aside. But she unravels into this awesome character that pulls this amazing power move in the middle of the book that's just like, is fantastic. It's really good. It makes you root for her, and, she's a great, like, anchor for Victoria's character, because Victoria is awful to her. Has always been awful to her since she was a child. So, you know what I mean? It shows how the kind of the hurt someone feels can make them want to do it to someone else. It brings me back to the whole message of revenge. I think it's a lot heavier than the word anger, because anger, I feel, is a reaction to that moment. You have a quick reaction to something. If somebody cuts you off in traffic, you call them, whatever. Or, you get stung by a bee, you swat at it or something like that. You know what I mean? It's like an angry reaction to something. Whereas revenge is anger left to fester. It brings anger into a territory that ultimately makes you feel terrible in the end. In the moment, sure, you think it's what you want, but after all is said and done, I mean, when you look at most revenge tales, most, not all, the main character ends up, kind of right back where they started, still feeling angry and all of that. But yeah, so overall, I'm going to go ahead and give the Playroom 5 stars out of 5 stars. I was going to give it, it was balancing between 4 and 5, but the more I thought about it, the more I think, you know what? I went in with the expectations of it being cliche. It was, but I still loved it. It still took me for a ride. And that's ultimately what I wanted in the end. So 5 stars out of 5 stars. What do I take from all of it? I think the best revenge is success. And I don't mean success in the way of status or money or anything like that. I think the best kind of revenge is learning to love who you are despite your imperfections. Which is kind of, almost prophetical in this situation, because the creator of Courage the Cowardly Dog actually just passed away the other day. And if I can quote Bathtub Fish from a really great episode of the show, there's no such thing as perfect. You're beautiful the way you are, Courage. You can do anything. Despite your imperfections, you can do anything. So I think learning to love yourself and letting hurtful things from the past go is the best revenge in the end. But that's going to be it for me today, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you want to check out some of my other reviews, I'll leave a playlist down in the description below. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Thanks again. Have a good day.